Are you ready? All right, ladies and gentlemen, for the main event. Next up, we have the founder and executive chairman of the first ever publicly traded company that went 100% on a Bitcoin standard, got rid of all their dirty fiat that was just losing value and put it into the hottest money we've ever seen. And let me tell you about him. He's not just an executive chairman and founder and all this. In 2022, I arranged a Bitcoin pleb party in Los Angeles. And then a few days later, I met him at an after party of the conference, and I just jokingly asked him why he didn't show up. And guess what? The second one I organized, which was last year in Miami, one of the first guests to show up was our next guest, who came and hung out with the plebs. So please, welcome to the stage, Giga Chat, Giga Cyber Hornet, Giga Pleb, the man who never sells, Michael Saylor!
I love Prague. And I was delighted to be invited to speak again. I got invited back. If you're not Bitcoin enough, you don't get invited back to speak. So I've been spending the entire year trying to convince these guys to let me back on stage. And they relented, and I get a chance to present a new set of slides, my second best set of slides, 21 Rules of Bitcoin. I didn't label it the 21 Rules of Bitcoin because everybody's got their rules, and I'm not so presumptuous to think that I know the 21 rules. But I have my 21 rules, and I'm delighted to share them with you today. I'm going to start by framing my conversation. Bitcoin's a singularity where science collides with economics, right? This is a profound thing. Just like when science collided with astronomy in the Copernican revolution, just like when science collided with medicine and we realized that diseases aren't caused by demons, Bitcoin is where science collides with economics, and it ushers in a new age of economic insight, which will profoundly change our political systems, our financial systems, the way we think about the world. And of course, we all know this. Bitcoin's the world's first perfect money. The human race has lived for thousands and thousands of years with defective money. Seashells, bales of tobacco, glass beads, copper tokens. One day we'll look back and we'll kind of chuckle at silver tokens and copper and pieces of paper, and we'll wonder, how did the human race get this far? The implications of perfect money are profound. It's a paradigm shift. It's not like your assets are appreciating in price. You're just falling through space. This idea of relativity, you're in a relative frame of reference. Everything around you is distorted, and you have to break out of your frame of reference in order to see the world differently. Einstein did it for us with relativity. But every great scientist has done it, and Satoshi introduced a paradigm shift in economics and in monetary thought. And so, with that as my preamble, I'd like to talk about the 21 rules of Bitcoin. I'll start with rule number 1. Those who understand Bitcoin buy Bitcoin, and those that don't criticize Bitcoin. And you can see in a paradigm shift, it's just so profound. There'll be people that'll talk about it, and as long as you're talking about it, it's not clear you understand it. At the point that things click for you, you're not just going to talk about it, you're not going to criticize it, you're going to run, not walk, to the nearest place where you can buy Bitcoin. And for me, it was very clear when it clicked, I had to buy it. And on the other hand, the world's full of people that criticize it. They criticize it because they have not yet grasped the paradigm shift. And if it hasn't clicked for you, you'll have 10,000 criticisms. Rule number 2, everybody is against Bitcoin before they're for it. Right? It's not a surprise. Why is this person against Bitcoin? Why is this banker against Bitcoin? Why is this bank against Bitcoin? Why is this politician against Bitcoin? They're against Bitcoin because they don't understand it. Everybody will be against it. We're going to introduce such a profound new idea that the natural human reaction of a healthy institution, a healthy political system, a healthy intellect is to first reject it. This should not be discouraging. It should not be surprising. It's exactly and completely natural that this would happen. Rule number 3. How do you know you understand Bitcoin? Well, the way you know you understand Bitcoin is you realize that you're never fully going to understand Bitcoin. If you think you've understood it, if you've studied it, if you're sure you get it, that means you haven't quite grasped it yet. People that really embrace Bitcoin, understand it, they realize you'll never be done learning about Bitcoin. Never. What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin's not just the protocol, it's not just the software, it's not just the way you interact with it or everyone else that uses Bitcoin interacts with it. Bitcoin's it's a virus. It's an economic virus, it's a monetary virus, it's an ideological virus. It's going to ripple through time and space. So to understand Bitcoin, you have to understand how the existing sets of adopters will interact on the layer 2, the layer 3, the layer 4, the layer 5. You have to understand how the layer 3 applications will interact with each other via layer 2 protocols, via layer 1 protocols. You have to be thinking about what will people that haven't even discovered Bitcoin be doing with Bitcoin in 10 years, in 50 years, in 100 years. If you want to understand Bitcoin, you think about what will 10 billion people 100 years from now be doing with Bitcoin through 300 million different institutions across protocols and extensions of Bitcoin that have not yet been conceived and have not yet been invented. So when you consider how the idea will ripple through time, through space, through complexity, through the endless ways that humanity can organize itself, then you grasp the full scope of Bitcoin. How will an artificial intelligent entity created in 10 years, living in cyberspace 50 years from now, integrating with 1 million other AIs, use Bitcoin? Right? This is a profound chain reaction. It's a fire in cyberspace. It's viral through time, through space, through humanity, through all of the various vestiges of humanity. And of course, once you get that idea, you realize that you don't really know everything that's in the minds of 8 billion people or 300 million corporations or 1 billion things that are yet to come. And with that comes humility, and with that comes a thirst to keep studying Bitcoin. You'll never be done learning about Bitcoin. Rule number 4. Bitcoin's powered by chaos. When you take your money and you put it in a bank and you save it in a fiat currency, you're loaning your money to a country. When you take your money and you buy a stock, you're loaning your money to the management team of a company. When you take your money and you buy a building, you're loaning your money to the mayor of a city. When you take your money and you buy a piece of art, you're loaning your money and investing your money in a culture. When you actually buy Bitcoin, you're loaning your money to the lords of entropy. You're loaning your money to the gods of chaos. What's the bet? The bet is that chaos will outperform cities, companies, countries, cultures. It's a profound idea. I place you in Europe before World War II. I give you a lot of money, and I give you a choice. You can buy any piece of land in any country. You can buy any building. You can own any company in Europe. You can own art in Europe. You can invest in the currencies and the bonds of Europe. Imagine I give you a choice of buying any asset in any nation that's about to be a combatant in World War II, or you can own the one bank in Switzerland that's going to hold all the money of all the combatants. And you see, if you own that Swiss bank, and everybody puts their money in the bank, and the war comes, chaos comes. And the war is a metaphor for chaos and entropy accelerated in 4 years. What you realize is every building is risky. It may be blown up. Every company will probably collapse. Any piece of land may or may not have value. The rents and the rental contracts will probably be torn up. The currencies will all collapse. And in fact, the more chaos, the more destruction and devastation, the more valuable that one bank. In fact, if everybody puts their money in the bank and they all kill each other, the bank keeps the money. And it's a very profound idea. Are you in the business of benefiting from chaos, or are you in the business of attempting to stop it? And the law of thermodynamics says you can't stop entropy, right? The more confused a government is, the more inefficient the mayor is, the more inefficient and competitive a corporation's market environment is, the more chaos and the more change in the culture, the worse all those other investments are, and the better the Bitcoin investment is. Bitcoin is powered by chaos. It's going to continually outperform everything else because the one truth in the universe is that entropy goes in one direction, chaos will continue. Walk into a casino, it's rigged. Every game is rigged against you, maybe with the exception of poker. And when you sit down at the poker table, if you're not the professional poker player, that game's rigged against you too. Bitcoin's the only game in the casino that we can all win. That's a very sobering idea. Yeah, maybe you can win one of the games if you rig it. Maybe you can find something in life you can win for a while. If you're the expert in this business or that region or that real estate or this art dealership or something, maybe you find a game for a while that you can win, but there is no game that everybody can win all the time, right? Bitcoin is the casino. It is the house of chaos. Anybody that wants to play in that game can keep winning. In fact, right, the most profound idea here is the only way to lose in the game of Bitcoin is you don't play the game or you quit too soon until the odds come to your favor. So walk into the casino, sit down, play the game of Bitcoin, don't quit. Everybody wins. Or walk out of the casino, play a different game. Over a long enough time horizon, you'll be a loser in every other game because you don't control the house, you don't control the odds. Even when you think you own the country, even when you think you own the company, even when you think you have monopoly on the market, the gods of entropy are going to upset your fragile equilibrium. Bitcoin will protect you, but Bitcoin won't protect you if you don't wear the armor. You have to suit up. What does that mean? You're going to walk through fire. You're going to go through a molten volcano. Don't armor up 1% of your body. Don't cover 5% of your body. Suit up. Buy the Bitcoin. Control the Bitcoin, right? Maybe this means not your keys, not your coin. Maybe this means it doesn't help to tell everybody you know about Bitcoin, but be afraid to buy it. It doesn't help to buy it if you don't control it. It doesn't help, when you put 1% of your assets into Bitcoin and the rest go to zero, and the 1% increases by a factor of 20 or 30 or 100, you'll be saying to yourself, I guess I got something, and then you'll look back and you'll think, I'd be a lot better if 99% of my body hadn't been burned. Maybe I could have suited up more than 1% of my body. Don't leave yourself with an Achilles heel. Rule number 7. Bitcoin's the one thing in the universe that you can truly own. How? Why? Right? It's information manifested as economic value. The network has to be durable. The network has to be decentralized. The network has to be ethical. But if you find an economically sound, technically sound, ethically sound crypto network, of which we have one called Bitcoin, then the possession of the keys is ownership of the thing. Everything else you have in your life, you own at the pleasure of someone more powerful than you. Whether it's the mayor, the governor, the nation state, the corporation, it could be anything or anyone. You think you own it, you have it until it's taken away. It'll be taken away from you by expropriation, by taxation. Maybe it'll be taken away from you by regulation. And in the absence of all those things, it'll be taken away from you by the passage of time, entropy and chaos. Except this thing. This is the thing that if you own this, the passage of time only makes it more valuable. Chaos only makes it more valuable. Nobody on earth can take it away from you. It's the first thing in human history you can own. It redefines the principle of property. Rule 8, everybody gets Bitcoin at the price they deserve. The decision to buy Bitcoin is an act of humility. It's when you can overcome your fear, your uncertainty, your doubt. It's a moment of clarity and courage. Courage to overcome the FUD. Clarity when you realize that you need to break with your convention, with your ceremony, with your rituals, with all of your history. And when you finally see things clearly, and when you finally overcome that fear, you'll buy it. In December of 2013, I looked at it and I tweeted, Bitcoin's days are numbered. It'll probably go the way of online gambling. Big mistake. Bitcoin was $892. Okay? I got the price I deserved. And when I first started buying Bitcoin, I was buying it at $9,500. But that's okay. I'll buy it at $95,000. And then I'll be buying it at $950,000. And when it gets to $950,000, there'll be some whiny person, a talking head on television, saying it looks overbought right now. It looks a little bit heated. We think it's going to trade down to 700,000. And they'll miss it. It'll go to 8 million. And they'll buy it at 8 million. And they will get Bitcoin at the price they deserve. There's a classic phrase in the world, only invest the money you can afford to lose. If I ran a casino with the deck stacked against you, I would put that as a disclaimer in my ads. Come to my casino, but only gamble the money you can afford to lose. If I ran some sort of, investment company scam and I wanted to take your money and buy swampland in Florida, or I wanted to gamble on a bunch of companies I didn't understand, I say, hey, only invest the money you can afford to lose. When you actually say only invest the money you can afford to lose in my crypto token or my casino or in my investment whatever or my idea, you're making a moral equivalence to gambling with the odds against you, right? You're basically saying there's nothing better about what I'm offering than any foolish game that you're likely to lose. If I run a bar, and you ask me, well, how's your bar? I said, well, we serve really good drinks, but you should probably only come here on evenings when you don't have to work the next day. That's honest, right? You're going to get drunk in my bar. You're going to underperform the next day. I'm being honest with you. But, nobody ever said, hey, only put the kids on the school bus that you don't need me to return. Only buy a ticket on my airplane if you don't need to reach the destination. Right? The engineers of the world don't say, hey, don't drive across my bridge if you really need to reach the other side. And so what I say is only buy Bitcoin with the money you can't afford to lose. I'm not going to equivocate. You shouldn't equivocate. People that equivocate don't understand Bitcoin, and they still don't get the idea of perfect money. We didn't invest in it because we wanted to take a risk. We invested in it, out of disgust with the world that forces us to take risk with everything else, where the risks are stacked against us and undisclosed. Bitcoin's better. When you embrace Bitcoin, you realize that your entire world is defined by a bunch of synthetic metrics. The CPI might come in as this, and the PPI might be that, and the employment rate is 2% or 3%, even though half of you don't have a job, and the ones that have a job aren't making as much as they were making, and everything costs 50% more. But the GDP is this, and the nominal GDP looks like that. But of course, we use the market basket of synthetic crap you don't want to buy to calculate the nominal and the real GDP. That's the matrix. You're living in the matrix. And rule number 10 is very simple. It's tickets to escape the matrix are priced in Bitcoin. You don't have Bitcoin, you cannot buy your way out of the matrix. And until you understand that you need to buy your way out of the matrix with Bitcoin, you don't understand the matrix and you don't understand Bitcoin. Rule number 11, Bitcoin insight, it's restricted to those with a need to know. You look at Bitcoin, you don't understand it. Charlie Munger doesn't understand it. Warren Buffett doesn't understand it. The bankers don't understand it. The rich people that you hate don't understand it. They don't need to know. That's why they can't see it, right? When you're comfortable and you live in the Western world and everything looks just fine to you and your cousin works at the bank, you don't have a need to know. When you have a need to know and your world comes crashing down, when you're looking at imminent death, when you're looking over the edge of the abyss, then you will understand and you will see Bitcoin for what it is. So don't be shocked when people look at it and they don't get it. They don't have a need to know. Rule number 12, all your models will be destroyed. I'm talking your political models, everything that we learned over 10,000 years. How do you run a city? How do you run a company? How do you run a country? How do you understand economics? What is inflation? What is economic prosperity? What is a job? Why should I do this? When you're looking backwards, all these people, they want to look at time series of historic stuff. You know, all I see is a bunch of statisticians analyzing people with chariots and you know, bows and arrows and camels and elephants, you know, fighting in wars 3,000 years ago, and we show up with explosives and aircraft, and they're trying to back test their models and figure out, you know, how explosives and aircraft impact the way they organize their elephants. You know, it's like all the models, they don't really make any sense anymore. If you understand Bitcoin, you realize you got to throw them all away. When Godzilla walks onto the playground, you know, all your models are worthless. They're all going to be destroyed. Rule 13, the cure to economic ill is the orange pill. Bitcoin is perfect money. Once you understand that, you realize everything you used for money in the past is toxic. Your capital is toxic. Your currency is toxic. You know, we've been living in a world where the doctors bleed you to death. We're living in a world where they inject garbage and sludge into your brains. You're living in a world where you're eating stuff which is poisonous, right? The cure is stop putting toxic stuff in your system. The orange pill is that cure. We need to spread that cure to the world. And how are we going to spread it? Rule number 14. Before Bitcoin, don't be against fiat. Before Bitcoin, not against fiat, right? If you go to Bernard Arnault, one of the richest men in the world, and you say to Bernard, well, you know, here's a good business, selling handbags, selling luxury items. Bernard realizes he's not going to take all his money and buy euros or buy dollar bonds or buy pesos. But that doesn't mean he won't price his handbags in euros and dollars, right? The richest man in the world still will price things in a local currency, recognizing that people would rather trade the currency for the handbag, or trade the currency for the champagne, or trade the currency for the Bitcoin, right? We're for something which is beautiful and elegant and powerful and inspirational. We don't need to be against the other thing. At the end of the day, 99% of all the wealth in the world is going to be in something other than the currency, and half of it will probably be in Bitcoin. Let's just be for it. Bitcoin's for everybody. Rule number 15. It's for the people you don't like. It's for the, you know, the AI bot that took your job is going to run on Bitcoin. You'll be mad about the fact that the robo-taxi took your job or the robot took your job, but you should be happy about the fact that the robo-taxi that took your job runs on Bitcoin and wanted to buy your Bitcoin and drove up the price of your Bitcoin by a factor of 10 or 100 or 1,000, right? Your enemy is going to buy Bitcoin. The people that launch the ETF and buy the ETF that you don't agree with, that come from a place you don't like, they're going to drive up the value of your Bitcoin by a factor of 1,000. And you don't have to like them, and you don't have to embrace their ideology. What you should realize is the more people that join the Bitcoin system, whether they're your friend, your enemy, the religion you love, the religion you don't care for, the country that you're at odds with, they're all helping Bitcoin. And if you are true to Bitcoin, they'll be helping you. Rule number 16, learn to think in Bitcoin. You know, I see a lot of people that hold Bitcoin, you know, and they still don't think in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been going up 50% a year for the past 4 years. That means the risk-free rate, the cost of capital is 50%. So you have the option to borrow money at 5%, loan it to Bitcoin at 50%, and keep the 45% difference. And I'll meet Bitcoin businesses that they want to actually raise money and loan it to someone at 15% that's a counterparty. Why would you loan to a counterparty at 15% when you can loan to Bitcoin at 50%? Right? Why would you invest? I have an investment idea for you. Is it a risk-free 50% return? Let's be conservative. I think, Bitcoin will appreciate 24% a year for the next 10 years conservatively. That's the risk-free rate. You have an idea for me? Give me an idea that returns more than 24% a year, plus the risk premium, scalably for the next decade, then maybe it's interesting. Most people, they just have the wrong idea in their head. They don't think in Bitcoin, they make mistakes. Rule 17. You don't change Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a swarm of cyber hornets. It's a thundering herd of 8 billion people. It's going on for far beyond your lifetime, and it's much bigger and stronger and more powerful and more intelligent than you are, right? It's like Taleb writes about intellectual yet idiots, like people with PhDs in aeronautical engineering that give speeches on how to make birds fly better. It's like if you find yourself as the guy with the PhD lecturing eagles on how to fly, you're the person that thinks you can change Bitcoin. Right? You're not smarter than Bitcoin. You're not smarter than 300 million companies and 8 billion people and 80 billion people yet to be. Right? The world is big. The market is big. You're not going to change it. You're going to try to change it, but it'll be a lot smarter for you to change yourself. You know, we used to joke about laser eyes. Rule 18, laser eyes protect you from endless lies. People thought, oh, this is just a meme. Laser ray to 100K. It's not a meme. This is going to save you. When you know, who do I feel sorry for? It's like I feel sorry for people that put on the laser eyes, watch Bitcoin go up $20,000, and then take the laser eyes off and declare victory. Right? Don't take the laser eyes off. The laser eyes tell you a message, which is they signify the fact that you should avoid dilutive distractions. Right? When Bitcoin goes from 10,000 to 100,000 and you declare victory, so you launch 16 crappy businesses and 14 stupid industries because you're a genius, right? You took the laser eyes off. Pride cometh before fall, and Bitcoin is going from $1 trillion to 10 trillion to 100 trillion to 500 trillion, and at that point it'll be growing better than everything else. And there's someone that wants to take laser eyes and focus on this thing as long as the joke is good, and then they're going to drift off to launch 82 other things. Well, let me tell you, there's 2.8 million mobile apps created for the iPhone, and you probably can't name a dozen that worked. There's 1.8 million extensions in Chrome, and you probably don't use 2 of them. Right? There's a 99.9% mortality rate on new business ideas, but you're sure yours is going to work? Right? Laser eyes are about humility, but everybody is going to BS you. They're all going to tell you that they've got this great idea that's better than Bitcoin, the next Bitcoin. Bitcoin had its run, and then you're going to lose your focus. You're going to get distracted, maybe because you made a lot of money by buying Bitcoin at 100 and selling it at 5,000 because you were a genius and you got out at 5,000 and then you launched 16 other crappy, stupid businesses where you're just like everybody else, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, the mayor banned my business. Oh, the government taxed my business. Oops, it turns out that Microsoft wants to enter this business. Oops, I didn't realize that, that employee would steal whatever, the money from this business. Oops, the bank failed. And then you will rediscover everything that Satoshi knew when Satoshi invented Bitcoin. Laser eyes are here to protect you, right? Embrace them, right? Don't belittle them. And it takes me to my next point, which is, respect Bitcoin, or it'll make a clown out of you, right? I mean, I come to Bitcoin, I've spent all my time trying to learn Bitcoin. I realize I still don't learn Bitcoin. I still don't know everything there is about Bitcoin. But what I do appreciate about Bitcoin is it's bigger than all of us. It's stronger than all of us. It'll outlive all of us, right? When someone shows up and says, I just heard about Bitcoin, I'm here to fix it, right? Don't be that guy, right? Have some respect for this thing. We're almost done. I would be remiss in giving a presentation of 21 rules of Bitcoin if I didn't mention this rule. You do not sell your Bitcoin. What do I mean? Bitcoin is energy. Bitcoin is life. Don't squander your life. Conserve your energy. Right? I give you energy for, don't let the fire go out. When the fire is what keeps your family from freezing, do not let the fire go out. Right? You have a life, it's beautiful, you can do beautiful things. Don't throw yourself off a cliff. Right? And Satoshi gave you economic energy. You can capture it, you can own it, you can conserve it. Don't throw it away. Economically, Bitcoin's been going up 50% a year for the past 4 years. Every time you sold it, you gave up the best performing asset in the world to buy what? Diversification is selling the winner to buy the losers. When do you sell your Bitcoin? When your family's going to die, you sell your Bitcoin. When you need it to conserve your life, the lives of those you love, then yeah, you trade it, you borrow against it, but you only need one chair. You do not sell your Bitcoin. Everything else is inferior. The world, by the way, the entire world is constructed to convince you to sell your Bitcoin. Everybody wants you to trade your Bitcoin for their hedge fund, for their stock, for their idea, for their whatever it is. And you just have to keep in mind that, no one is getting rich by telling you not to give them your money. And we've arrived at the 21st rule of Bitcoin. Spread Bitcoin with love, not hate. Violence invites violence. Aggression inspires resistance. Satoshi, forgive them. They know not what they do. People don't understand Bitcoin. They're going to resist you. They're going to be afraid of you. They fear what they do not know. But when you come across someone that doesn't like Bitcoin, they call it a scam, they call it whatever was the last most colorful thing that someone said about it, your reaction ought to be, hey, they don't have a need to know, they don't understand. The world consists of people that need Bitcoin and they don't understand it, but they will. And those that need Bitcoin and they're in the business of getting it. When someone doesn't understand it and they treat you poorly and they're mean to you or they're aggressive or they're violent to you, the best thing you can do is just say they don't understand it. If you understood it, you wouldn't feel that way. Because if you push back against them with hate, that just slows down their learning path. They're just going to learn slower. They're going to adopt slower. If you actually treat them with kindness, they'll remember they were mean to you and they'll feel bad about it when they discover Bitcoin, and they'll come back and they'll embrace it. You make it easier for people to embrace Bitcoin and they'll do it faster. Don't give people the excuse that Bitcoiners are mean, they hate me, they were violent to me, right? Because then the entire topic just shifts to, a struggle, over some tangential thing which was irrelevant. So go place to place, door to door, person to person, institution to institution, nation to nation. Offer them something which is going to make their life better. Offer it with love, not hate. And with that, I want to thank you all. Thanks for supporting Bitcoin. Thanks for being here today.